Hi, Heidi. How are you doing? Oh, I can't hear you. You're on mute right now.
Doing well, other than I gotta brush my teeth yet. Getting ready. The Zoom world,
There you
Just
go. Just a little bit,
multitasking.
right?
Yes,
Yes, that's
exactly.
perfect. So letting other people in right now. Let's see. So we have Carly, Heidi, Catherine. Oh, I'm listed as Summer. Let me change that. Catherine, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Rainbow as well. And Carly, it looks like you were connecting to audio. Can everybody hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. I'll open up that chat feature. Yay. Okay. So I was going to wait just a couple minutes, just as as you all know, so we all have lives and sometimes things end up taking over a little bit. And so I know that people run a little bit late. So here we are, right? Before we get started, do you all have any specific questions that you want me to answer, or maybe possible suggestions for another, I don't want to say episode, kind of episode? I'm going to take yourself off of mute and we could just have an open discussion right now. That's going to give everybody for a couple more minutes anyways. All right. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to have a presentation to share with you all. So let me move this all over, get my screen situated so that way I can figure out what we're doing and all that good stuff. Let's see. Present. And present. Okay. This is actually something new that the association has decided to bring on. Most of you already know me. I am Jen Blazer. Everybody calls me Blazer. And so just this month, Summer asked if I would start doing some common bookkeeping, just questions that I get on a continuous basis. And for those that are just starting out, or maybe a little bit more advanced for those that are a little bit farther along. So what she wants to call it is bookkeeping breakfast with Blazer. I was laughing because it reminded me of triple D's, except now we're triple B. So you never know, this might end up changing a little bit. So we have somebody new. Hi and welcome if you can hear me. So today, for the very first time, we're going to be doing, or today's talk is going to be common business expenses and how to stay organized. So this is primarily focused towards people that have been, well, I shouldn't even say primarily focused towards the new ones, because I can't begin to tell you how many business owners I work with on a regular basis that actually need this type of help, even though they've been in business for several years. So if there's something in here that you want me to build off of, or if you have more specific questions, please let me know and we can run into that. So let's see. All right, so just a little bit about me, about Top Shelf. For some of you don't know, but I was BVP up until this month. The reason for that is because we had BVP and Top Shelf because of cannabis, and because we didn't know if we collected money on the cannabis side, if that would impact BVP in any negative type of way. So recently we got the full final approval, seal of approval, so to speak, to be able to have a just one name, which has been awesome because I can't tell you how many times people would call our office like, I thought we called this place. So there we are, right? So moving forward, we're going to be known as Top Shelf Services. And there's more about that with the partnerships that we have with CPAs and in the cannabis industry. So the services that we offer are bookkeeping, payroll, cleanup, cash flow management, and process development. I know a lot of times that in the association, they brand us, or it said that we're primarily geared towards people with 50 plus employees, but that's not the case. We actually only have 2 companies that we do work for that have more than 50 employees. And everybody else, it's a wide range. We have an actor out of California, we have cannabis, we have oil field, we have a lot of construction, a lot of real estate, a lot of cannabis. But essentially what we do is we like to learn what our customers are all about. We want to know what your goals are. We want to know where you see yourself in 5 years. We want to know, are you having any issues? Like with the cleanup projects that we do, we've literally had the shoe boxes. We've had people that come in with the shoe boxes. We've had people that come in with like the Walmart grocery bags. That's been a thing. And just trying to help people get organized and get back on track. That's really what we do. Our reputation is that of fixers. So we're the ones that we've developed relationships with CPAs in town where when somebody comes in with those Walmart grocery bags, with the shoe boxes, whatever the case may be, they usually send them to us. We get them nice and pretty. We assess how much they have in taxes, how much they need to get caught up in sales tax, usually is one of the bigger ones. And we get them reconciled, cleaned up, we get them put back in schedule and on a consistent schedule to keep them organized. Is anybody else waiting in the wait room? I don't think we have anybody else. Okay. So that's really what we're known for. So not necessarily extremely large, we're not necessarily extremely small, we have a wide variety. Our niche is job costing. And for those of you that don't know what job costing is, what that is, and you mostly see it in construction, real estate, cannabis, and oil and gas. That is why those are our niches. And that's just because of the job costing. So what we do, and I'm going to use construction because it's usually the most common. So let's say that you're building this house or house number 1 over here. This house has its own budget. So you have so much funds for this, you have so much in expenses and your labor, and then you're also going to have your profit on that. So you want to manage this, that way you know what your profitability is on here, and you don't want to know where you stand because at any point that homeowner can come in and say, where am I at? What are we looking at? Then you have a second house, and that's duplicated, a third house duplicated, fourth house duplicated. We have, at one point, we did work for Tierra del Sol, which is a nonprofit construction company here in town. And if you're not familiar with it, it is a very, very wonderful company to help the community, that helps the community. And they had, there was 3 different grants that came in, and each grant was anywhere between, I think it was 36 to 50 homes at one time. So we managed that type of, I'm sorry, I have a couple people that are having to jump back and forth between different systems. Can everybody hear me okay? Are we good still there?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I saw a couple names coming back and forth, so I was like, oh no, we're having issues. But so that's what job costing is. So if at any moment you are needing that type of a breakdown where maybe you have grants or different sources of funding, that's what we do best. So that's our niche. And then my experience, I started in 2022 at NMSU working at the accounts receivable department there. And then I moved on to Delvia Physical Therapy, and I was there for 6 years. I did their medical billing, and my boss there was amazing. She's the one that pretty much she ingrained into me, if at any moment you're ever thinking there's an easier way to do it, there is. And she was one of the first people that I worked with that helped develop that cloud-based operation and the ability to work remotely. So I've been doing remote work since, well, 23, up until I left in 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. After that, I was in public accounting. And then in 2015, that's when I started my own business. So I just say fempreneur because that kind of encompasses everything. So what you're all here for, right? Common business expenses. And Carly, for those of you that don't know that, Carly is another bookkeeper here in town. She's also a CPA. So if I miss something here, or sometimes I'll get tongue tied on stuff, so feel free to chime in on this. We're all about, in the association, collaboration, not competition. So I will gladly and welcome if I make a mistake and you correct me. So these are common expenses. So we have our advertising, and a lot of times, I know advertising is up here in this section, and then we have charitable contributions way down here. There are times that your charitable contributions to somebody may actually count towards an advertising. So let's say that you give money to your school's PTO, or maybe it's a school's club, or like a, not like a PTO, but like a sports organization that is a 501, that does have that status. If they are putting your logo, if they are putting your information somewhere on a banner, on their team, on the posters, whatever that is, that's advertising. And advertising is, for me, from what my experience is, it's a lot easier to get your CPA to put your advertising over charitable contributions onto your tax returns, or give you full credit for that. Continuing education. A lot of us have licenses that we have to get renewed. So continuing education, credit and collection fees. So if you're in an accrual basis and you are billing out, you have the ability to write off some of your collection fees and stuff like that. Bank fees. Most of our banks, they charge us a fee, whether it's like a reviewal fee, maybe you did a transfer, maybe you did a wire, hopefully not, but it does happen. Maybe there's a time, hey, Summer, maybe there's a time that your bank account overdrafts, or whatever the case may be. That's where the bank fees come into play. Dues and subscriptions. So dues and subscriptions and like magazine and book subscriptions are usually where I see a lot of people get mixed up on where do I post this on. So dues and subscriptions here, these are like your association expenses. That's where we can put that for you. There's, I know Summer just like lit up right there. I don't know if you saw her face. But, I can't hear you. Okay. So that's where something like that would go in. Any type of chamber dues. Honestly, if you have like a Sam's Club membership or something like that, I usually put that into there as well. Employee benefit programs. Everyone's a little bit different in this. I mean, there's this stuff like you're right, and underneath there's the stuff like insurance and maybe the cafeteria plans and stuff like that. In my office, because we're so sedentary, what I do is I have different subscriptions like to iFit, and I think we have like a Jillian Michaels and a Beachbody, and that is because we actually use it, and I can substantiate it because I literally have weights and stuff underneath my desk. We have one specific room that is designated to a workout room where people can go in and they can stretch. There's yoga mats, there's all sorts of stuff. So for me, that's an employee benefit for my office. So I absolutely have that type of stuff as a deduction in mind. Repairs and maintenance. And Carly, I might need your help on this one because I'm a little rusty on what the threshold is on this, but repairs and maintenance. So let's say that you have a work vehicle and you have to have like the oil changed and tires rotated and that type of stuff, right? But let's say that your vehicle gets damaged, or let's say that you have to replace the engine or the transmission or something large, and it restarts the life of that vehicle. that is no longer just a regular repairs and maintenance. That is actually something that would hit your balance sheet and something that could be depreciated. Carly, did I say that right? I'm gonna put Carly on the spot right now.
Yeah, and I believe it's $2,500 is the limit. So anything that costs more than that should go on your balance sheet as like an improvement, not as a repairs and maintenance.
Yes, thank you for saying improvement. How many of you rent a space right now?
We do.
Okay. If you are renting, so let's say our house, right? We have a house, we can remodel, we can do whatever we want to it, and that just goes into our regular expenses, right? Yay, that's fantastic. If you are renting an office place and you have an improvement, so I'm getting ready to expand into the next office over, and we're about to start gutting it and remodeling it and doing that type of stuff, I can't take that with me. This is not my plate. I don't own this, but I can put that under leasehold improvements. And that's something that I can use depending on the amount. I believe, and Carly, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that I can use that on my balance sheet, but depending on the amount, it may go on to my profit and loss under these repairs and maintenance. Something like that.
Okay, so like my interns are painting our office right now, like our bathroom and stuff. So the paint and stuff can actually go towards that, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Legal services and professional services. So legal services are very straightforward. There's a lot of times that I'll see something like, what is that, Legal Zoom or something like that. I'll usually put that here into legal services, or if there's an actual attorney that does any type of work for you, that goes here. Professional services, you actually need to separate those out on your books. The reason being is it's because there's different boxes on your 1099 form. So professional services are stuff like a financial advisor, a bookkeeper, whatever is not legal services, more so like a 1099 person that you've hired to do work for you, maybe website design or something like that. Office expenses and supplies. That's pretty straightforward. All your pens, your paper, your books, your printing supplies, all that stuff. That's more of what that is. Telephone and utilities, internet, I'm trying to think of everything else that could be cable, gas, water, all of that stuff. I did not go into home office expenses. That can be a whole nother class all in itself. The short down and dirty version of that is if you take your entire house and I don't know, let's say it's 2,000 square feet, your office is a 10 by 10. So let's say that's 100 square feet. You can use 10% or wait, I can't wrap my math around it right now. But you get the picture. Whatever your square feet is of your actual office versus your entire house, you can use that percentage of your expenses for your normal house. So that's like your security, your utilities, your mortgage interest, or your house insurance, that type of stuff. That's the down and dirty version of home office expenses. Postage and shipping, printing, rent, all of this stuff is pretty self-explanatory as you go through here. Business meals, put a pin in that one because I have a different slide for that one. But salaries and compensation, if you are an S Corp, separate that out on your register. So what I mean by that is if you are an officer, or if you have more than one partner with you, have it be to where you have owner's pay and then your employees pay underneath. So that way that can get separated out. That's something that I always get asked for every time that we're getting ready to do a tax return. Business use of your car. There are so many apps out there that can help you. I use Mile IQ. It's this orange little app. What I do is I have it run in the background, and usually you should do it more frequently. I do it once a quarter. I go through and I say, this is personal and this is business. And the reason for that is because in order for you to use that mileage, you have to have some type of a log that says what you did and how it was in business use. And that like I said, this is very generalized. If you have more specific questions on that, I'll gladly go into it. But if you're out and about running around for work quite frequently, then what I would do is I would put one of those apps on there. Yeah, so Mile IQ, let me put that on here. There you go. Oh, the app, you get so much time for the app that you can use. I pay, it's $60 a year for that one specifically. To me, it's absolutely worth it. I do have business vehicles. I have 2 of them that are on my actual books and have been depreciated, but I still track my mileage just in case I need it. Let's see. Moving expenses, if you ever have to move, that's part of it. Depreciation. So one of the things that is really, really hard for me to obtain as the bookkeeper is the final tax return for my clients. Even though I work directly with the CPA, even though they send a tax return to me to do whatever it is I need to do, I have a hard time with them sending me that final tax return. And the reason why I bring that up is because one of the issues that I see most common with bookkeeping is that when you close out a year, it's never fully closed out because the equity accounts are not closed out, the depreciation is not recorded. And so what that does on your books is whenever you go to apply for a loan or whatever the case may be, and you send them your reports and you send them a copy of the tax return, if they're asking that, the bank's going to ask, why do the 2 not match? And most commonly, it's because the depreciation was not recorded, which means your books have a higher income than your tax return because depreciation reduces your taxable income. So keep that in mind after you do your tax return. Get that tax return to your bookkeeper so that way they can post those entries and close out your year and make everything tie up and nice and pretty with the bow. Startup expenses. Startup expenses, I think honestly that could probably be a whole nother class in itself. But think about the expenses that you incur when you're first starting a business. There's a LLC. If you're choosing to do an LLC, there's that expense. There's all of, I need to get myself organized. So maybe it's you end up going and buying binders and stuff like that. Maybe it's the supplies. It's all the little things that add up. But then you also have the big things like your software, and that's right underneath here. Maybe you had to invest in some software. Maybe you created your own software. There's a lot of different things that go into startup expenses. And if any of you need that, please send me a message and I can get you a list of things that can go into startup expenses if we're not already working together. Mortgage interest, that's up there. Books and magazines. I usually most of the time end up putting my books and magazines into my continuing education just because that's what my books and magazines, the content is about, is my continuing education. Licenses and permits, so like your city license or your permit, whatever the case may be to operate your license. Maybe you have professional licenses, so that would be something that goes there. Raw materials, cost of goods sold, I just put that there because that's something that will end up there if you're actually creating and you have that that cost of good type of business. So most service-based businesses don't have a cost of goods sold, but construction absolutely does. Real estate taxes, plain and simple, your property taxes. That's all that really comes down to. Client gifts, that's a whole thing in itself. Actually on August 3rd, I'm going to be doing a real estate specific presentation for KW Realty and Flores Property. So that is Anela Flores. She asked me to go do a presentation for her team and the people that are in her office. Client gifts for realtors is very, very big. And they have certain guidelines that they have to adhere to. Employee loans, that's something that you can, that is a common expense, not necessarily a deduction because they end up paying it back. But if they end up never paying you back, then that can become a deduction. And then we did talk about charitable contributions. One of the things that I've noticed with charitable contributions, sorry, let me put my phone on mute, is that a lot of times people who contribute to a 501 or any type of charitable organization, they don't get the tax ID number. if that is something that you do on a regular basis, what you need to do is you need to either have them write a letter or you need to get a hold of their tax ID number. And depending on the amount, like let's say that you donate a vehicle to a church or whatever the case may be, there's an actual form that they fill out for a tangible item so that way you get credit for that. Client glyph presentation, that is August 3rd. And that's going to be at the KW Realty just down the street for me, like by the Chipotle area, that weird octagon bank looking building. That's where that's going to be at. Okay. All right. Next slide. All right. So business meals. I think we're all association members in here, so I feel completely comfortable saying this. I cannot tell you how many times I've been at a restaurant and overheard that somebody say, "Oh my God, I have the business card. Lunch and drinks are on me, bitches." It's I can't tell you how many times I've heard something along that line. It's quite comical to me because it was just last year. Just last year, 100% was a deduction. It's not that way most of the time. So every single time that you see these right here, this is what's common. Oops, wrong way. These 50%, that's what we most of the time do. We go and we eat with our clients. We take stuff for the office. We travel for work. We're at a conference, whatever the case may be. I hate to break it to you, that's 50%. That's it. There might be a way that you can put that under like a meeting expense or advertising. And that just depends on your relationship with your CPA. I understand that some CPAs and you may be I want the black and white. Is it 50% or 100%? And that's what I'm sticking to. And then there's some that are, what's gonna borderline put me to jail? Or put me in jail, and I want to ride that line. And I understand that if I get audited, then they may come back and bite me in the butt. But essentially what this comes down to is your business meals with your clients, food for work, meals while traveling for work, and meals at our conference are only 50%. So what ends up happening, for those of you that don't know what this does, is whenever your CPA is doing your tax return, they see meals, they take 50% and automatically that gets thrown away. You don't even get credit for that. It's just true, unallowable, plain and simple. The stuff that is 100%, that is food for company holiday parties, food and beverage for the public. So let's say, I don't know, you have water to give out or whatever the case would be. And then dinner for employees working late. So this is usually, whenever I do books, I usually ask my clients to say, okay, what are your meals for the office? What are your travel meals? What are you buying groceries? And then the other part is over here on the 100%, do you buy lunch or meals for your employees? And that's usually how I break it down. So that way it all doesn't just get lumped into one and they get an actual deduction. All right, so the last one that I have is how to stay organized. So I have some individuals that they're not ready for a QuickBooks file. They're just starting out. They don't need that expense, and most importantly, they don't know how to use it. So if you're not going to take the time to learn how to use a software, don't use it. Use something simple like Excel, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Carly has something on her website where if you're not ready for a bookkeeper, you can purchase a template from her. I have the same thing. There's a lot of different options, and you don't have to get fancy with this. It's just something that says this is my income and where it came from and what it was for. Like maybe I sold a service, maybe I sold a product, whatever the case may be. These are my expenses and what was the expense. So Amazon kills me. There's so many people that use Amazon, but we need to know, what exactly did you buy? Did you buy a toothbrush or did you buy I don't know, an office organizer or furniture? Or I think you could buy a little house on Amazon now. It's ridiculous what you can buy on Amazon. So make sure that you keep that in a register so that we know what it is. File your receipts. I hate paper, I'm not gonna lie, but I know that there's a lot of people that love paper. And I still have a paper calendar. Even though everything else that I have is all digital, I still have to see some stuff. But what I do is when it comes to my receipts, I use Dropbox. Dropbox is an app on my phone. I can take a picture, scan it, and file it away. And I know that some people like Google Drive better. It's whatever type of system works for you. If there is a way that you can take a scan, because how many of you, and I'm gonna pick on Melissa right now because you're construction, how many of your employees crumble up the receipts, throw it in the bed of their truck, and when it comes to you, it is warped by the sun and you can barely make out the date or where it was to, and maybe it's a gas receipt.
Are you picking on my purse right now?
Mine is the same way.
When I came, that's what I'm like, Abby, here's my pile.
Yeah, take that picture. Usually what I ask my clients to do is, you know what, if you're at a restaurant, because no matter what I say about meals, we still eat, right? So what I say is take that receipt, right at the top who you met with, write what you talked about. Like it just can be something simple, like if I'm meeting with TA or something like the association will do a receipt and I'm like, all right, this was fempreneur breakfast. Or if we have a management lunch, it's TA dash, maybe we're talking about accounts receivable, or we're talking about whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be a long paragraph. It just has to give who you were with and a business purpose to give it some validity. The other thing that I say with your receipts, if you have physical receipts, oh, back up one sec. If you get emailed receipts, print those and put them in your Google Drive or your Dropbox or whatever system it is that you use. My preference when it comes to receipts and how to organize it, what I've noticed is business owners, what they tend to do, and especially women, we love to color coordinate. We like all of our pen colors, all of this type of stuff. We like things pretty and organized and for it to look uniform. So our normal go-to is to say, okay, I'm going to organize this by here's all of my Amazon receipts, and here's all of my Verizon statements, and here's all of my Walmart receipts. Or they say, okay, this was office expenses, this was advertising, this is utilities, whatever the case may be. When it comes to your taxes, and I don't think we have anybody in cannabis here, but the best way that I've learned to organize, and this is from a bookkeeper standpoint, not a business owner standpoint, is to get one of those manila folders that has the 13 slots in it, you know, like the little loop comes over and you can wrap it with a string, is to use one of those. I use one for every single month, and I put all my receipts in there by month. So that way, when it comes to the end of the month and I get my bank statement, I have the bank statement, all of my receipts are behind it, or maybe it's my credit card statement and all my receipts are behind it, and I can scan everything in one swoop. So that way, if I ever get audited for a specific period of time, I can just pull that specific pile or move that specific folder because it's scanned, and I don't have to give them access to anything else. So those are my recommendations on that type of stuff for your receipts.
Hey, Jen, what? Okay, so this is like really, really basic, but what are you doing to scan? How do you scan? Are you,
My
you
phone.
just use an app on your phone?
Yeah, so I
Okay.
use Dropbox.
Okay.
And on Dropbox, there's a blue button, and you can either take a picture or you can scan it. The other thing is here in the office, because we do so much scanning, I have an Epson receipt scanner. And so what that one does is it'll do the front and back, and it'll, you know how sometimes you do a scan and the ink, you can see it through on the back side of it. So you end up getting 2 pages when really it's only one. That one will actually sort through it. It was a little pricey. I think it was $350 or $400, but because of the volume that we do here, totally worth it. And it also does the little receipts, so you can adjust it to whatever size it is. But usually we just go through it, make sure it doesn't have staples, and we stick a whole pile in there and it shoots it through on its own. We don't even really have to adjust it very much. And I think I got it at Best Buy, if I'm not mistaken. Best Buy or Staples. Let's see. All right, so at the end of the year, for those of you that are new to this, or some of you don't know that you're supposed to do this, and what I've learned being a bookkeeper is that business owners don't know because we just don't know. Some people don't know that this tax was due because nobody told them that that tax was due. There's classes and stuff like that, but they're very, very generalized. If you all ever have any questions, just shoot me a text, shoot me a Facebook Messenger, whatever the case may be. I'll be happy to point you in the right direction or make sure that you're in compliance with whatever it is that you need. But you have to have your balance sheet reconciled. The only way that you can do that is if you get your bank account statements. So when I say all of them, if you have a checking and a savings, make sure you're saving both of those statements. If you have let me see, a money market account, if you have an Edward Jones account, whatever the case that you may, or whatever it is that you may have a copy of that. It's best to have it in a digital format just because it's cleaner, but you have to reconcile your account, and that's the only way that you get credit for everything. Because what ends up happening, or what I see a lot of the times, is I see the checking account coming in here and then a transfer to savings and then a transfer to a completely different bank account. So that bank account gets linked into QuickBooks, and then come to find out that was a personal account that now we have, you know, like your kids' school supplies and your kids over here, and then your nail salon and your, you know, just all sorts of stuff. So it gets very, very confusing. If you mix and match your bank accounts, we can decipher it, but it's going to take a couple phone calls just to make sure that we're on the same track. But most important, save your bank account statements, your credit card statements, your loan documents. Loan documents have to be saved. And at the end of every year, you have to know what your balance is for every single loan that you have. So I see this a lot with fleet, especially in the oil and gas field. We need to know if this vehicle has a loan, what is the balance at the end of the year and how much interest was paid towards that. Amortization schedules are helpful, but that's sometimes not exactly what was paid. So keep all of that and make sure by the time that you get your stuff over to your CPA, you've actually reconciled your bank statement to your books. And something just to help put this into perspective, because I know that sometimes this can be scary, and a lot of times I get the glazed over deer in the headlights look, like, oh my God, I'm going to jail. You're not going to go to jail. They'll give you a couple warnings first. But sorry. But essentially what comes down to this is, do you remember those checkbook registers? The checkbook registers, like you went to the bank and you ordered checks and they gave you that register. That's all that your books are. It's just you recording your books, except instead of you having to flip through and add up all of your advertising and all of your utilities, when you enter it into something like QuickBooks, you enter in your register, and in the background, it's creating all of those summaries. And that's what your balance sheet and your profit and loss are. That's very, very layman's terms, but that's what happens, and that's where those reports come from. It's all based off of your entries. And then the last thing are your tax payments. Something with the state of New Mexico. And like I said, I don't know where everybody is at as far as their knowledge base with the tax and revenue department. Whenever you file your tax return, if you say to the state, I had this much income, but your sales tax amount that was reported is different, that usually flags something. And you're going to end up getting a notice saying, you filed this much, your sales tax say this much, why is there a difference? And they give you an opportunity, but you usually have to send in, these are my receipts for the month, this is my bank statement for the month, and this is why I only reflected this much. And for the most part, it's usually pretty straightforward and we can do it. It's just time consuming. But keep your tax payments. And there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and stop share on this. Move my screen over here so I can see everybody. All right. What questions do you all have? So I know I went through that kind of fast and very generalized.
I have questions.
Yes, ma'am. Don't pick me.
Okay, well, actually, this is kind of, okay, a random one, but how, okay, so how does it work with, like shirts and different things like that? As far as expenses go, or shoes, or, I mean, is there like, are there any tips or tricks? I mean,
Mhm.
you
Okay.
know, like, I know my mom figured out actually that, well, she got her doctor to write a letter for alopecia and now her extensions are paid for. So I'm just wondering,
What? Oh my God, I
yeah,
love it.
yeah. So
I
like,
love
how
it.
do you, like, do you have any fun things like that for us as females? Like, can you get my nails written off?
So I'm going to say it this way. It all depends on your CPA. And this is the story that I'm going to tell you. I have two oil field companies. One oil field company, the yard is behind the house. Actually, both of them, the yard is behind their house. And one of them has two Maltese dogs that anytime that a fly lands, they like lose it and they start barking and stuff like that. So that CPA for that specific client said, oh, security, that's a guard dog. They notify you when somebody's here, just like if it's a security system. Cool. Those dogs are never want for nothing. Then I have another dog or another company that has it's actually like a little guard station and it's fenced off and stuff. And they have Rottweilers to monitor the yard and to notify and stuff like that. That CPA, nope, not a chance in hell. Didn't even consider that to be a security, even though that is their job. They literally have, those dogs have a section in that yard that it's clear, and anybody walking by, anybody reasonably could say, oh, those are guard dogs. The Maltese, yeah, that's a stretch. But a lot of it depends on your CPA, in my opinion. So there's a couple ways that I have seen this. We're doing a presentation right now, right? You see me, we're recording. I have proof I have pretty nails right now.
Yes, they're beautiful.
See? Marketing. It's a marketing expense for me. I have to look put together. I don't all the time. I'm always in a t-shirt and jeans, but you always see me in my t-shirts. Those are an expense. I usually put those towards marketing. So actually sometimes, a lot of times I end up going to uniforms because my entire office wears t-shirts that are logoed all the time. There are times when I have to do really fancy presentations. So let's say that the association is doing like their kickoff event or keynote or something like that, and I want to wear something specific. I know that I have to be put together. I know that there's going to be pictures. There's going to be some type of photographs or whatever the case may be to actually show that I did use it for business use. I will absolutely use it for business use. So my Jordans that I wore to the kickoff event, I had tons of pictures of me in my Jordans. I totally put those onto my business.
We are having a blast listening to this. This is amazing.
I'm like,
You
did
made
you
my
know I
day.
have Jordans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. My golf outfit is going on then.
You know what? The party.
Yes.
The tea. There's going to be tons of pictures. It's a networking event. It's no different than if you were to have so at the end of the year, you have a employee party, right? And you tend to dress up for that type of stuff. Well, you as a business owner have an advantage over most of everybody else, especially your employees. You have to look a certain way. Your self-branding is a very specific way. That is how you justify it. I am marketing myself. I am marketing my expertise. I am marketing my value. And what gives me value is first impression. I look put together. I don't have man hands. So
I love it.
So the general rule of thumb, I'm going to tell you this for clothes. Let's take work boots, right? Or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Usually the rule of thumb is you cannot write off, or The items that you can write off are the items that are only for business use. So most of the time people don't wear like construction clothes into public or wear them to church, or maybe it's the, what do they call, the RFPs or something, like the flame retardant protective wear. Yeah.
Toes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that type of stuff. So that has a very unique context to it, and that's something that can be absolutely justified. Where you have to be willing to fight for yourself is when it comes to our nails and our hair, the clothes that we wear. But like I said, if there is a way that we can get pictures or some type of proof that you did use it for business use, then that is what we want to have done. So it just means we got to take more pictures, which I suck at, but we're gonna make it work.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. What other questions do you have?
Love it.
Anybody else?
So I thought Melissa had another
let me
question.
just ask you about your receipt. Oh, sorry.
Who is first?
Sorry, let me ask you one thing with receipts. Okay,
Okay.
so do you, okay, so because we are completely paper. We are not paperless at all yet, right?
Okay.
How, okay, so Dropbox and stuff, how do you not worry about, I guess, losing it? Do you
Oh.
have one that you like more?
Yes. So the reason why I picked Dropbox over any of the other one, and I just used it yesterday, is because there's a way in your admin console. So I have a business one, and you don't necessarily need that unless you're going to have multiple users. But the way that mine is set up is I have mine. I have a manager login, which is for Cynthia and me to share, which has our employee files in there. And then I have an admin one. Honestly, I probably should have one for every single one of my employees, but the way that we use the information, it doesn't make sense to incur that cost if we don't need it. But since I'm one of the admin and Cynthia is one of the admin, we have the ability to go into the admin console, right click on a file and pull up the previous history. And so if somebody, let's say it's a Word document or something that can be edited, you have the ability to right click and restore a previous version of that. And then if something is deleted, you have the ability in the admin console to locate the files that were deleted and review them to make sure that it's something that if you need it, you can just restore it.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. Sabotage, employee sabotage. You got, as much as you don't want to admit it, it's real.
It happens. Well, and then also there's just accidental error too.
Operator error. Yep, absolutely. Heidi, do you have a question?
So you're talking about the personal branding being a speaker, so up in front of the people. So that's gonna be, I mean, I have to have the, the look of whatever being up in front of the people. So my
Yeah.
clothing and nails and all that sort of stuff.
It's whatever your branding is. I honestly, so the only reason why my nails are done right now is because I want to feel pretty for my birthday week. But I very rarely actually do my own nails, or I don't really go get my nails done. I do my nails at home. I have the gel polish and the machine at the house. So if I do have a presentation, I'll just do a quick paint, set it and forget it, and just move on. And that's really what I do. Mostly because it's not because I don't like to be pampered. I have that guilt of, oh my God, I should be working. Oh my God, I should be with my kids. Oh my God, I should be doing this. Oh my God, I should be that. Like the whole hour I'm sitting there like this, I'm like, will you please freaking hurry up? So that's the only reason why I don't. But when I do, it's a business expense. So for you, it's, what is your self-branding? What is it that you want to look like? What is it that your first impression you feel needs to be? That's the type of stuff that I usually gear towards, because if you create that and that's definitely business use and you can make it repetitive, then that is something that you can justify.
Okay.
The trick to this is getting the right CPA that's on the same board, or that's on the same
So-
page.
So speaking of CPA, I know
Mhm.
you gave me a name and I know I have an appointment scheduled and I don't remember when that appointment was scheduled. And I
For
can't find the name.
for anybody that's listening, one of my favorite CPA firms in Las Cruces is Granite Mountain Accounting.
That's what it was. Thank you.
Dan Wilson at Granite Mountain Accounting. The reason why I love him is he's the black and white, or he's the, you might go to jail if we do this, but if you want to try it, I'll do it. But he gives you a wide variety of things, of different scenarios. Okay, if we do this, there's this is what's going to occur. If we do this, this is what's going to occur. But what I love most about Granite Mountain is that they actually tax plan with you. They sit down with you before the end of the year and they say, okay, based off of what you're doing and your history and what your projections are, you're either going to, like, you're going to end up at this point and your taxable liability is going to be this. If you want to reduce that, purchase this or do this, or maybe it's, so it could be something like IRAs, could be something like putting your kids on payroll, could be something like purchasing a vehicle or equipment, whatever the case may be. So,
I've worked with Dan with a couple of clients, and he's always been really good about doing the projections as to what we're going to be contributing before year end, and then he gets me final numbers usually by February.
love it.
Yeah, so he's always yeah, they're very, very, what's the word I want to use? Proactive
Conscientious?
versus reactive.
Yeah, very proactive. That's why I like them. They're one of my favorites, and we refer to them all the time. Mhm. Catherine, Rainbow, did you have any questions? Crickets.
I don't know if Catherine can hear you, but I was gonna say she's with Select Realty, and when you mentioned that thing about client gifting, because Marcy and I were just talking to Misty over the weekend about doing that, and then she's like, you know, make sure you know what your you know, she's like, I would have Texas laws, so make sure you have your New Mexico laws.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm in Alamogordo and I forgot a toothbrush. So, but anyway, so I was gonna say I can mention it to Steinborn and see if they are interested in doing that presentation as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Client gifting is very strict in the finance industry. That's another thing. I was like, y'all can give away a lot more stuff than we could. So I think that's an excellent topic. It may even be good to do it in here one day.
Yeah. So the one that I'm going to be doing for the realtors, it's pretty much how to stay organized, kind of something like this, but more in depth and more specific to what they're doing. Because a lot of times what's happening with the realtors is they're flipping homes or they're keeping homes for rentals. And then there's a certain way that those have to go through on the tax return as far as, does anybody here have rentals? No? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yes, you do. Okay, so for rentals, the way that most of the CPAs want to see it is they want to know the income and expenses per property. And so that's something that you don't know unless you know, right? So you operate a whole year and then you get to the end of the year, you take your stuff to your books and you're all happy, I'm organized, I have my receipts, I have my income, and then you turn it in and they say, okay, how much was this property? How much was this property? How much was this property? And you're like, ah, shit. So that's something that you can do ahead of time. But again, it's something that if you don't know, you don't know until you do. So that's why I'm going to be doing that presentation on the 3rd, is to talk to these realtors, because another one of the things with the realtors is they have, and this may be something that may come across with you all, is if you ever get a statement. So let's say that you're 1099 commissioned or something like that. So like with realtors, you have, okay, this is my commission, but this is the fee to this person. This is the royalty over here. I had somebody help me, so they took their cut and they pushed it over here, you know, whatever the case may be. So you only have, you have whatever's left over, and that hits the bank account. Well, if your 1099 says 100,000, but your income statement shows 89,000, there's a discrepancy there. And it's usually all that fluff, all those fees in between that you're not recording. And so that's usually something that realtors, I have to break down. But again, you don't know unless you know. Kathy, you just joined us. Let's see. I'm sorry, there is a chat that came through. Hold on one sec. 1099, wondering if we need a CPA and a bookkeeper. Oh, that's a really important question. So a lot of times when it comes to CPAs and bookkeepers, we are different. A lot of CPA firms, they do have bookkeepers in their office. And really the differences between us is the bookkeepers keep you organized and reconciled throughout the whole year. And then the CPAs take those numbers, they put them into your tax return, they do the tax projections, they do the tax analysis, they do that type of stuff. So some CPA offices, most CPAs offices are all inclusive. On our side, we only do your bookkeeping. We only do your bookkeeping because of my experience. I tend to think like a CPA. So there's a lot of times that you'll have expenses or whatever the case coming through, and I'm analyzing it how a CPA would and saying, okay, we can do this or this. What option are you more comfortable with? And depending on your answer is a CPA that I'm going to refer you to get that tax return done. So if you are, so Catherine, you're a 1099. Okay, you do have a question. Okay, I'll jump right over to you. So if you are a 1099, the main thing here is track your mileage, keep all of your expenses organized, and honestly, you would probably benefit from just something like an Excel sheet. And that's something that I can prepare for you and I can customize it to you. So the way that my Excel spreadsheet works is you enter in your expenses. What's the date? I don't know, Amazon, what you purchased and the amount, right? And then whatever it is that you purchased, that is something that it feeds over into another worksheet. And that worksheet is a very, very basic P&L, or it may filter over into a balance sheet, whatever the case may be. So I do have something that I can provide for you for that to keep you organized. But if it is something where I'm taking a look at it, I'm like, oh girl, you're like right there between an Excel spreadsheet and QuickBooks. We could probably get away with this for a little bit longer, but you're likely going to need to go to the next one. But does that answer your question? Perfect. All right. All right. So the next one, starting a job in El Paso next week, keep track of my mileage and personal tax for my personal taxes. Yes, absolutely. So whenever it comes to work, I believe the threshold is 50 miles. I can look that up for you. But if you Google how to write off my mileage for work, well, what you can do, I'm pretty sure it's 50 miles. If your home and your place of business is more than 50 miles away, the expenses from going back and forth, your mileage, the gas and all of that type of stuff, that can all be used on your personal. So you usually have to make a choice. You have to make a choice between mileage and the repairs and maintenance and fuel. Most of the time, the mileage is a higher deduction than your actual expenses. But yes, absolutely keep track of that stuff. And then Kathy, you were a little late coming in, but do you have any questions for me?
I was going to remind everybody too, Catherine, if you were late, we're going to be emailing this out because Taryn already asked me about it. I can't make it today. So
You got it. No problem. Well, we are almost at an hour. I think we only have like a minute or two. So if there's not anything else.
One quick question. So
Yeah.
for my speeches, I'm thinking about doing some possible giveaways during the speeches. So those would be tax deductible things too, right?
Promotional items. So
Yeah.
it's like a subcategory of advertising.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Hey, Jen, just
Yes.
an idea. I think this was fabulous. And I think you should do one on like reading a balance sheet and an income statement and the difference between them. That would be awesome if you would be interested.
You got it. I actually already have one, a presentation for that. So I will do it. So reading a balance sheet. The funniest part about that, and I'm always under the, my philosophy is if we're not learning, we're not growing. And so I always try to do training with my staff. And the funniest thing was I sent them a recording of me doing a balance sheet and a profit and loss. And I was like, all right, y'all, I need your honest opinion on this. Is this something that is helpful? So we could use it with our clients or whatever the case may be. And I'll be damned, they didn't come back. They're like, I didn't know we could do that. And I was like, oh my God. Like, y'all are killing me. I do have that. And I have it set up to where it's like the most stubborn of people. They never want to learn the new things. I have it set up to where it's pretty easy flowing. It's very, very basic as far as this is what this actually means. So yeah, I will definitely, that can go on for next month or whatever, however it flows through it. But yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Mhm. All right, y'all. Well, it is about that time. If there's not anything else, if you have any other suggestions, any other presentations that you want to see, please send those over to us. We can prepare some presentations on that, and we'll go from there. All right, y'all have a good day.
Thanks, babe. Y'all remember she's going to be doing these the third Tuesday of every month.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.